Tyson Fury?
Yeah, Tyson is there.
Oh, shit.
He was just showing off his stomach, his belly, so he unzipped it.
Wait, hold up.
The belly was out.
Oh, wait, I'm not joking. He looks slimmer there. Like, compared to when we saw the last face-off between him and Ngannou, he looks a lot slimmer.
Yeah, he's in fight camp now for Ngannou, which is a really interesting fight. I'll be honest, if there's... You know how you have that moment where you think, if I could just go in time and make a fight change direction, I'd love Ngannou to knock that motherfucker clean out. I would laugh in his face so hard, because the thing is, his greed is what is giving him that fight. His greed for an easy fight for the biggest amount of money, and just to have the Usyk fight lined up already. Yeah. It's so overlooking, it's so disrespectful, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but to land flat on your face is that big, huge fist. And I'll be honest, there's no man I've ever shared a room with who's more intimidating than Francis Ngannou. Like, if you said to me real fight, no rules, Francis Ngannou would leave nothing left of Tyson Fury. We'd be picking the bones out of like Francis's teeth at the end of that night. You know what I mean? So I just love that moment. It'd be like, yeah, you asked for this, did you? And you lined up Usyk next. It'd be great. I mean, it ain't going to happen because he's going to get his head jabbed off. But I'm just saying, it would be lovely.
I mean, yeah, there is that element, because like when a fight is predictable, especially when there's a lot of money involved, there is a bit of a bad taste in the mouth, and then add on top of that, pre-planning the next fight.
Yeah.
What?
It just shows that there is no fight. Anyone who really buys that pay-per-view, you got to think about it.
It takes the whole like substance and almost like morals of what fighting is about. It's like the winner of this gets this person, or the winner.
It's not supposed to be predictable at that level.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's not meant to be predictable. Let's do this whole pre-plan. Like, that ruins the whole almost story, the magic of fighting. You know?
The way I see it is this. Tyson Fury, whether you think this is right or wrong, has seen his era as Anthony Joshua, Usyk, Deontay Wilder, maybe one or two others, right? So the up-and-comers that he could have potentially took on, maybe a Hrgovic, maybe a Zhilei Zhang, someone like that, instead of the Francis Ngannou fight, he's looking at and he's thinking, okay, tougher fights for nowhere near as much money. And as much as we can sit here and go, well, no, give the fans what they want, at the end of the day, you could say to me now, you've got a decision to make. Do you make the fans happy, people who, yes, have supported your career and helped you get to the position you're in, or do you make your family financially stable? I am going with the latter option. So what I would say here is, when you look at the Tyson Fury thing, you know, at the end of the day, whether he fights Ngannou or not, we got to really wait until all is said and done, because that man is the best fighter, the best heavyweight that we have seen of this current generation.
It's a great point. If he hadn't just fought Derek Chisora for the third time. When you're fighting Derek Chisora for the third time, which is a pathetic fight, like, you might as well just pick anyone at that point. And you then and so we all hear that, and he goes, no, but we're fighting Usyk next. Okay, still ridiculous, but okay. Then you fight a guy who's never even had a boxing match. It just makes a mockery out of it. So, I don't even mind the Ngannou fight. I think the Ngannou fight's a fun fight, right? Like the Rocky Apollo story almost of like, oh, this shouldn't really be happening. It's the fact that he hasn't fought Zhang, he hasn't fought Usyk, he hasn't fought so many of these top guys of his era, and then parades around calling the greatest.
But then come the end of his career, if we go, and I know this is hypothetical, we can't necessarily do this, but come the end of his career, if he finishes his career having fought Usyk and Anthony Joshua, no Hrgovic, no Zhang, no Joyce, none of the other contenders, just those two, yeah, and obviously the 3 fights against Deontay Wilder, do we then sit back at that and go, yeah, well, you didn't fight this up and comer who eventually down the line's probably going to get beat by someone else? Or do we go, okay, there's a question if you say you're the greatest heavyweight of all time, but if we look at that individually for that era, from the mid to late 2000s up until 2022, 2024, whenever he retires, and then go, you are undoubtedly the best heavyweight of your time if he has got those wins against those fighters. And the way that Fury will look at it is he's going to beat those fighters. I personally also believe he's going to beat those fighters. So I think that that's the question there when you look at it at the end of things. And as a fighter, especially someone like Tyson Fury, who we all know is very savvy when it comes to managing his career, that's the way he'll look at it. That is the way he'll look at it.
As well, I also think there's an element of he's looking at stuff like this, Misfits, and going, right, there's all this crossover happening. These guys are all breaking the rules of boxing, you know, traditional.
They're not real boxers.
Yeah, but he's probably going, well, Why can't I do whatever the fuck I want?
Because you're the heavyweight champion of the world. You've got a responsibility to the belt and to the...
But there's almost an element of like, yeah, I'm the champion of the world, so therefore I can do whatever the fuck I want. And do you know what I mean? I almost feel like there's an element as well where he's like, I've gone to Deontay Wilder's backyard, I've gone to Klitschko's, like, let me do something where I go and earn like this amount. Like, I think he's going, well, yeah, I deserve it.
That is a thing you've got to mention there, and it's a massive point in terms of like recency bias. And I'm not accusing you of this, but what I'm saying is when you look at Tyson Fury's career, everyone will go to the most recent things. So they'll go, you know, you haven't really fought anyone who's been a real challenge to you since before the Dillian Whyte fight. But at the end of the day, when you're looking at the bigger picture and you go, you took that Deontay Wilder fight when everyone around you, apart from your promoter who wanted the dough there, told you not to take that fight. Yeah, you went into the rematch, fair enough. Then it's another story. But when you first took that fight, the odds were stacked against you. When you went out to Dusseldorf, not only were the odds stacked against you with the bookies, you saw the tricks that Klitschko was trying to pull with the ring matting and all these other things. And different times in his career when he has took, you know, fights that he didn't have to, when he rematched John McDermott after a controversial decision. He's done a lot of things in his career that at this point now, although we've got this recency bias and people go, we want to see you in there with the top names. I think it's recency
bias. I think it's called accountability. So if you want all the credit for fighting Klitschko, you want the credit for fighting Deontay Wilder, you also get the criticism of taking a third easy, I think the most easy fight known to man against Chisora.
The only real big fight that he's took is been the Wilder fights. But other than that, he's not had any really notable fights, really. And in recent years, when he's had the opportunity to fight Joshua, he put a time scale on signing a contract. He done the same with Usyk. I just think in recent years, he's had every opportunity as the Gypsy King, the fighting man, what he's meant to stand by, to kind of cement his legacy, and he's done everything to make it difficult for his opponents to make them fights happen. So,
to your point, Loz, Anthony Joshua has way more world title defences than Fury has. So we're talking about legacy. You're talking about at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But even right now, in the grand scheme of legacy, all right, Fury hasn't taken a loss, but if we're talking about a defending champion and what embodies the word champion, Anthony Joshua was more of a champion to me than Fury, and only when Fury proves that point eventually will I acknowledge that. But even then, we're going to be looking at a career where you go, God, it could have been so much more.
Like you're meant about what's it called?
John McDermott.
Yeah, like I mean, these guys aren't really world level. You're talking.
Neither was Fury at that time.
But you're talking about on his way up some of his fights. But when he's reached the top, I can't think of many fights that are notable other than the Wilder fight. Klitschko fight was a bore fest. I think he fought a Klitschko which was at his worst. He underperformed on the night. And I just think when you look at Anthony Joshua, how many times he's defended against anybody, he's always took on whoever's been in front of him, in fairness to him, even when he was quite a novice pro, really, when he won his world title. I just think, like Anthony,
champions are supposed to be brave. And if there's something I look at Tyson Fury, I go, when it comes to you being brave in the face of, you've done it before with the Wilder fight when you were overweight, that was brave. But we haven't seen enough of that because you're supposed to set an example. We're supposed to live through you and go, wow, look at what you've... When you're beating up a guy who's not in the best shape in Chisora, who's no threat to you, what is a champion about that? I'm not seeing it.
When you talk there about the risks he's taken and the thing you mentioned there is the Klitschko fight, right? Yeah. I understand that, and I understand that we then saw Anthony Joshua go and stop Klitschko 2 years later, by the way. That was 2 years later. And when you look at that Klitschko fight, when he fought Klitschko had been going to points with most of his opponents. He then went out to the States and had a career best performance, maybe not the best of his career, but best in recent years at that time, stopping Bryant Jennings in the 9th round or wherever it was, really putting a beat down on him. So actually, when you take yourself back to that time, that Klitschko that went into the Fury fight was regarded as being really well. And someone that has boxed to a high level yourself, you'll understand that there's a fine line between someone underperforming and someone being massively nullified. And I think that when you see the amount of success that Klitschko had against Joshua 2 years later, okay, Joshua's stoppage was more impressive, but you got to give Fury credit for the way he dealt with Klitschko in that.
I agree with you to a point. I think for whatever reason, Klitschko he'd never fought a man that big, and I think in fairness, he kind of did get nullified. And I think whether he wasn't used to fighting a bigger man, whatever the reason was, he underperformed. And I think the Klitschko who fought Joshua was a much better fighter. Whether that's because, like you just saying, Fury nullified him and didn't give him the opportunity to perform, it's really hard to say. But them are the only two fights I can honestly say of Fury's main fights which are notable.
Of course.